The first unit we will study this year is an introduction to biology. This will also serve as an introduction to our self-paced style of classroom. Take a second in your journal to record 10 living things that come to mind. You may push pause if you need to. Biology comes from two STEM words. Bio mean living, and ology meaning the study of. Put that together and you get the study of living things, also known as biology. Many people use biology in their daily lives and careers. People like crime scene investigators, anyone in the medical field, farmers, and many other careers use biology every day. Take a second and push pause on the video and watch the YouTube video that says careers in biology. When you are done, you may resume this lecture. Biologists use many tools. One of the most important tools that a biologist uses is the microscope. There are many different types of microscopes. One being the light microscope. With a light microscope, light is passed through an object that you are viewing. This type of microscope is used for very small things like germs, cells, bacteria, etc. The next type of microscope used is the stereo microscope. These are used for things like bugs, animals, leaves, and other things. The final type of microscope, which we will not be able to use in the classroom, is an electron microscope or a scanning electron microscope. An electron microscope is similar to a light microscope in that it passes something through the object we're viewing. The only difference is that a light microscope uses a beam of light and an electron microscope uses a field of electrons. These microscopes can magnify things up to 500,000 times their actual size. Please take a second to pause this video and watch the attached YouTube microscope video. When you are done, you may resume this lecture. One important thing that scientists use every day is measurement. Take a second in your journal or your notes to write down 5 units of measurement that we use every day. You may pause this video if you need to. In doing so, also tell what each unit measures. The most important type of measurement system, or the one we use in science, is called the SI system, also known as the International System of Units. When measuring length, what unit do we use for length? Please write this down. The base unit for length in the SI system is the meter. A meter is quite close to a yard, with a yard being slightly shorter than a meter. That is why they're often interchanged. Take a second to estimate the length of the room in meters. Record this in your notes. Pause this video now, measure the length of the room in meters, and record your results. Volume is another way of saying the amount of space that something takes up. What unit do we use for volume in the United States? Please record this on your notes. In the SI system, the unit for volume is the liter. You may have seen this on bottles of pop or other types of measurements where we use the liter. At the side of the room is a tub with water. Take a second to estimate how many liters of water are in that tub. When you have estimated, pause the video and go measure it. Many times in science, weight and mass are confused. How much do you weigh? Please write it down. How much do you think you would weigh on the moon? If you answered in different numbers, did the amount of you change if you went to the moon? Probably not. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. Weight is the gravitational pull on that object. While your mass stays the same, the amount of you stays the same, your weight changes. Can you think of why? If you answered that the gravitational pull on Earth is different than that on the moon, then you were correct. Weight is determined by the amount of gravitational pull. We often measure mass in the science lab by using a balance. That balance measures in grams or kilograms. Choose an object, any object. Estimate its mass in grams. When you have done so, find a balance in the room and measure its actual mass in grams, being sure to record both values. Temperature is the amount of heat contained in an object. What unit do we use in the United States for measuring temperature? The unit used in the international system is Kelvin, but oftentimes the degree Celsius is used. In most instances in this class, we will use the degree Celsius. What do you think the temperature of the room is in degrees Celsius? Please estimate and write it down. What is it actually? Please write this down as well. The time scale does not change no matter where you go. Seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years are all accepted across the world as units of measurement. We will use the second. How long do you think it takes your heart to beat 30 times? Please estimate in seconds. After you have measured it, please record. The metric system is much simpler than our system that we use, and it uses a number of prefixes to tell the power of 10 that is used. You will see below is a scale or a chart used to measure or to estimate our units. After you've viewed this chart, you may want to copy it into your notes. After doing that, please view the video on the next page. Pause and follow along, taking notes as the video is played. Scientists often use what is called the scientific method, which is an organized way for developing and researching a problem. It is not always, however, used for doing science. Science is often done in a much less formal way. For our class, we will study the scientific method in a step-by-step manner. The first step to solving any type of science problem is identifying that problem. To do that science, you must figure out what the problem is first. For the sake of this class, we will use the example from the book. A biology class raised guppies for a class project. Paula thought the guppies would have more young if the light in the aquarium was turned off part of the time. Other students thought the light should be left on all the time. But Paula had observed that her guppies at home had more young than the ones at school. She also knew that she kept her aquarium light turned off part of the time. The class had a problem. What should they do about the aquarium light? Step 2 of the scientific method tells us to ask a question. In this example, the students had identified a problem. The guppies were wanted to have more young, so they needed to ask the question, what do they do about the aquarium light? Step 3 is forming a hypothesis. As you know, a hypothesis is an educated guess based on the information you have at hand. You must then predict if your hypothesis is right, what will happen? If your hypothesis is wrong, what will happen? In this instance, if the light is turned off part of the time, then the guppies will have more young, is Paula's hypothesis. She knew that her guppies received less light than the ones at school. She also observed two important things. Her tank at home had the same amount of water as it in the one at school. Also that the water temperature was the same in each tank. Paula was pretty sure that the conditions for guppies were the same at home and school, except for the amount of light. However, she needed to do a test to be absolutely sure. In step 4 of the scientific method, we need to create an experiment. An experiment clearly tests your hypothesis and only your hypothesis. An experiment is simply a test. Variables are things that could play a role in your experiment that you're not testing. Controls are things you'd like to compare your experiment to. In Paula's example, she divided the guppies into 2 equal groups. She put the groups into separate tanks and labeled them Group A and Group B. She kept the temperature in the tanks the same. She put the same amount of water in each tank. The light for Group B was left on 24 hours a day. The light for Group A was turned on for 12 hours and turned off for 12 hours. Paula also used a number of variables. The variables were the water temperature, the amount of food given to each group, and the number of hours the light was left on. For meaningful results, she could only test one variable at a time. Paula tested the effect of having the light on for different lengths of time. In Paula's experiment, the control was Group B, where the light was left on for 24 hours. She planned to compare her results with Group A when the experiment was done to see if one produced more young. The final step of the scientific method is to draw conclusions. You have to look at your experiment and the data that's given to you to analyze to see if your hypothesis was correct. If you were right, you can retest your experiment. If you were wrong, you may have to form a new hypothesis. If you'd like to see Paula's data, you can check on page 18. If she wanted accurate results, Paula could complete the test again. If she saw this trend continue, she might form a theory, which is a hypothesis that has been tested time and time again and has always proven to be true. What Paula found was that Group A had more young than Group B. Please take a second to summarize Paula's scientific method, documenting each step of the scientific method and what Paula did to test it or to prove it. If you'd like, you can look at pages 15 through 19 to see what she used for her 5 steps of the scientific method. When you are finished, you have completed Chapter 1.